All right. Welcome to the Bark Knight podcast. This is your host, Patrick.
And I'm Dan.
All right. So this week we are talking about Gladiator II. So we're going to do a deep breakdown of the entire movie, breaking down things like the box office, the cast, the acting, the action, special effects, music, and so on. I'm sure we'll roll into a couple other tangents in the middle of that, but we're going to keep it pretty tight this week. And then we're going to do some news. We're going to do a physical media showcase, and that's today's episode.
Sounds good to me, my friend.
All right.
Gladiator 2. Too glad to aider.
Yeah. So, Dan, why don't we, to start this off, let's contextualize and set the table for our audience here. What does this movie mean to you? And, both movies, the franchise as a whole.
Right. So this is a movie I never thought would happen. I thought that the time to possibly do a Gladiator 2 was long past happening, It was, the first movie came out in 2000, if I'm not mistaken. And It was, I say a phenomenon. It's one of the rare movies. I think it came out in March and ended up having enough legs to win Best Picture that year, which I think is kind of not a common thing. And that's what it means to me. Is it came out. I went and saw it for my father's birthday the year it came out, and I remember watching that movie and being like, "This is something special. This is a absolutely epic movie about revenge and what people will go through to get said revenge." And it's always been one of my favorite movies, and I didn't think there would ever be a sequel produced. And when I heard news of it, I thought it was just, you always hear kind of rumors of stuff being done, but I didn't think it was actually going to come to fruition. And I just kind of had that same thought for as long as it was in production. I'm like, this ain't going to happen. And then sure enough, I was proven wrong.
Sure enough, we finally got there, and I think that there was, Ridley Scott and the cast as a whole kind of thought it might not ever happen either. They went through a lot of iterations of that too.
Right.
Initially, they were thinking about bringing Russell Crowe back, and so that the sequel idea evolved over the course of 24 years.
Well, yeah, of course it did. It couldn't be the initial thought,
right? I think for me, it's a similar thing. I never thought they would do a sequel. It was sitting for a while, but I will say that I love the first movie.
Yep.
It is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's one of those movies that I consider a masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I watch it, it finishes, and I'm like, yeah, no notes. Mm-hmm. There's nothing I can walk away from that movie and say I could improve. It's just one of those movies.
It's one of those movies, yeah. Mm-hmm. Completely agree.
We've talked a lot about those movies that are masterpieces, or those movies that come so close to being masterpieces, but you're like, well, if it wasn't for this thing or this thing or this thing, it probably would be damn close. But Gladiator 1 is one of those movies. I've got no notes. It's right up there with the first Lord of the Rings for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just a great movie. And I saw somebody did a review this weekend where they were like, this is the ultimate dad movie right now.
That makes sense. That's a good...
She's like, if you are a dad, you're probably very excited about this movie.
I can understand that. That makes complete sense.
Yeah, and I was like, well, I'm not dad, but I am in that age.
The right age back. I don't think I have a child.
Yeah, so let's get into it.
Yeah.
So first thing, plot.
Mm-hmm.
So the plot of this movie is about a warrior in a not too far off land from Rome, ancient Rome, that is basically his city is attacked, and he's captured and turned into a gladiator. It is not that far off from the first one.
No, because you find out...
It's a variation of the first one.
It really is. You find out he is the kid from the first movie. I don't think that's a spoiler. Right. They say in the trailer.
They highly allude to it in the trailer.
Okay.
So I think they even say in the trailer that Maximus is his father.
They do, which... I went back and watched the first movie the Thursday before the new one came out. That Thursday before I saw it on Friday, I mean to say. And I specifically watched that movie searching for hints that they might have dropped in that I just missed the first time through. and there's really not anything about that in there. They allude that there's a relationship there between Maximus and oh god, Connie Nielsen's character, whose name escapes me right now. But yeah, I didn't see
Lucilla.
any. Hmm?
Lucilla.
Thank you, Lucilla. And I didn't see anything about that when I rewatched it. But yeah, so I went off a little bit there. But yeah, the kid's gone and found a new home. He ran away from Rome because there was dangerous for him apparently, and it was an African nation that he found a home in. And the not the Russians, I'm sorry, the Romans got red dot on the head. The Romans are going because they're trying to conquer the whole world. That was their thing. So they go and they attack his new home, and he tries to defend it, and it does not go particularly well for him.
Yeah. Yeah, and from there he becomes a gladiator. He's sold into slavery, he becomes a gladiator because he can fight,
Mm-hmm.
and it's from there. It is a lot of it is, it's your standard gladiator movie stuff where he's out for revenge,
Mm-hmm.
out looking for vengeance, basically for the
Yeah.
rest of the movie, and trying to take it
Find
upon those that have wronged him.
right. Try to find people to help him out, to find people who have the same goals as him.
Yeah, so let's go into the box office. Movie was successful.
Okay.
It took second place in the U.S.
Wait,
behind Wicked.
that makes sense.
So it has a budget of 250 million. Domestically, it took 55.5 million, but globally, it took 221 million. That is because globally, it did take first place.
Okay. That's a. I don't know. I don't think that's surprising to me that it would be better globally than like. I think I seen Wicked trailers in the movie theater for about 2.5 years before that movie came out, so I'm not surprised it did so well its opening weekend. 5 seems low just because you're used to like the big old like box office opening, but if Wicked came out and deflated it a bit, that makes sense. Worldwide, so you said over 200 million worldwide,
221 million worldwide.
so it's gonna make a profit then for the company.
Yeah, I mean
It's,
it did 250 million on its budget, so it's not far from making its budget back.
Mhm.
And then it's just got to work out its marketing budget. And so if it has a weekend next weekend like it had this weekend, which it's very possible that it will, there's nothing I'm looking forward to next weekend. So
no,
I don't see any reason why people wouldn't. It could go down a little bit. Like maybe it takes 40 domestically
still,
and 200 globally.
yeah,
Maybe I think I think it'll far outpace 150 million
yeah,
next weekend. So get those sorts of numbers next weekend. It does just fine.
yeah.
And so they've already said that he has idea. He said too much about his ideas. Ridley Scott did in the press. He's
No,
like,
no.
oh, you basically just told us the end of the movie, dude.
He's getting up there in age, buddy. He just wants to get stuff out
He
there.
he is. He is. I think he got a little overzealous talking about this stuff, but he has ideas for a third one. I'd say already there's a good chance that they
Oh
do it
yeah,
just off these numbers.
that global
But to
box
put
office
this,
is big.
the global is huge, and I think a lot of times people forget about the global box office because so many people are just focused on the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
But it really is important. You factor in a lot. There's a lot of markets out there that are very, very lucrative opposed to the U.S.
Right.
So,
You look at the Jurassic Park
reception.
movies; they all made their money pretty much, not to that extent, but they made a lot more money overseas than they did U.S.
Yeah.
So same kind of idea. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. To put it into context, the first one had a budget of 103
Mm-hmm.
million, and it made 187 domestically at the end of its run, and a total of 465 globally.
There it is.
So the first one did great. So
Gangbusters. Yeah.
yeah, the first one made its budget back domestically. I don't know if this will make its budget back domestically, but I bet it gets. Bet it gets close. I bet it approaches 200 at the end
I mean,
of its
you
run.
you said it. There's nothing coming out next week that I can put my finger on right now, and
No.
this is people are going to be going out to movies over the holiday weekend. It could very well have really good legs and perform for weeks in advance. Like someone said, it could be like the next it and Wicked could be the next like Barbieheimer. I don't think that's going to happen, but they could very well have good legs, each of them, to in the box office in America.
Yeah, certainly could. And I mean, it is very comparable to that in that, like, so I follow this Instagram profile that compares the color palettes of movies.
Hmm. Neat.
And it was like, oh, what if we switched the color palette of this movie with this movie? And it did. I think it did Barbie with another movie, and it was interesting to see.
Really?
But somebody was like, "Oh, compare the color palette of Barbie and Wicked, and they're the same color palette."
That's
So
funny.
it did it, and there was no change. Yeah, so I think that it's a very comparable thing where you've got this huge brand with bright colors and all that. I think Gladiator 2 is quite different than Oppenheimer.
Hmm.
I don't know that this gets as many awards as the first one got, and I don't know if it gets as many awards as Oppenheimer got. But I think
I wouldn't think so, but
box office wise,
yeah,
probably fairly comparable.
that's funny. I never heard of that palette swapping movie site. That's a pretty cool idea. Like you could do
I'll
like
send it to you.
yeah, you could send like do like Barbie in the color palette of Underworld,
Yeah.
just all blue.
So it's not like a platform you could use. It's like an actual it's an account that does it
Oh,
themselves. So I assume they're using like Adobe Premiere or something,
oh yeah, that makes sense.
because what you can do is you can it's cool because they have square boxes that have like the main colors that are being used. And so I am assuming that they cut the frame
Hmm.
at a certain point, and then you can do color matching in Adobe Premiere, where you're like, okay, take this section and turn the color palette into this section. And so it's actually really easy to do. I've done it before. When I'm like, sometimes I'll be like, for work, I'll be like editing recorded footage, and I'll be mixing it with stock footage, and I don't want it to be too jarring to the audience. So I'll color match the recorded footage to the stock footage, or vice versa. But usually I do it the other way around, just because a lot of times the lighting in the stock footage will be better. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's pretty cool. I assume they're doing something like that.
look at you being all technical and stuff.
That is my job.
I know. All right.
So, yeah, the reception for the movie. Let's
Yeah.
talk that for a moment, just briefly, and then we can really get into the details of this thing.
Hmm.
So, largely, the reception has been positive.
I saw it had like 77 on Rotten Tomatoes, I think, something
Yes.
like that. And I don't know about the other review sites. I just popped on real quick today to look at it.
Yeah, and I've been keeping track of it on social media, primarily through Threads. And you get a lot of people like that woman that I saw that is like, oh, this is a lot of fun. It is good action, and it is very applicable to men over 30, I guess. But I saw some people that were completely trashing it. So that like, that other 30% of
All
Rotten
right.
Tomatoes is people they were quite literally saying this is one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
That's
So
stupid.
very, very passionate about their hatred of
I
it.
shouldn't say that's stupid. I apologize, but that seems a bit much.
It is. It's very dramatic, and I think it's completely out of base, because it's not. In a year where we have things like Madam Web,
Right.
you cannot say this isn't even the worst movie of the year,
No.
let alone ever made. Like, if somebody's saying this is the worst movie that's ever made, they need to watch more movies.
That's
Bottom line.
that's a very clickbait type answer, just trying to get responses.
And it probably was. You see that out there where you either get somebody that's either a contrarian,
Mhm.
who always just wants to say,
Whatever it is. Yeah.
yeah, whatever it is, they're going to go against the grain, or somebody that's just looking for clickbait,
Mhm.
anger bait,
Yeah.
engagement bait. Any of them, they just want to say something. Their hot takes, their
Yeah.
unpopular opinions. To try and get people to engage with them.
Exactly.
And
That's
I
what it
didn't.
feels like. Yeah. I pulled it up on my phone just now to see what it's sitting at. I see it's at 84% for the audience, which I think a movie like this, that's where you really got to look, is audience approval. And I think 84% is even lower than I thought it would be, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, it is. They're good numbers, and it's 77 for critics?
71. I just pulled it up.
Okay.
It dropped
I think
down from
I think
earlier.
it was 77
I think
because
so too.
I remember seeing that number. So I think that it has gone down since the when I saw it. I don't know, Friday, Saturday.
Right. I definitely
But yeah,
saw 77 at some point. So
largely positive.
yeah.
Most people like it. Most people are enjoying it, and I think that's good.
Mhm.
So let's talk about the cast.
Yes. Phenomenal cast. I did not have any complaints with any of the actors. I thought they all played their roles very well. I can't think of. I don't think I've seen the main actor in anything else ever. Maybe you can fill me in if I just missed him places. The Paul Mescal. I assume that's what his name is.
Yeah, Paul Mescal. I don't know him.
Okay.
I know him as an actor, but I don't know that I've actually ever seen anything he was in. Nothing I can think of.
Okay. I mean,
So
then
I got nothing for you.
that's all right. And after him, you get into the heavy hitters. You got Denzel, Pedro Pascal.
Denzel Washington.
Yeah.
He just destroyed it.
Yeah.
So I heard a little bit about the casting process when they started this. Once they settled on Paul Mescal, he's a relative unknown. He's got a few movies that are like independents.
Sure.
But so Ridley Scott and the studio were like, okay, well, let's get a big star for the other one. And Ridley Scott has worked with Denzel Washington before on American Gangster.
Okay.
And he worked with Tony Scott
Man on Fire.
on many movies. He worked with Tony Scott on like 4 or 5 movies, not
Really?
just Man
Okay.
on Fire. Yeah, so he did the train one, Unstoppable.
Oh
He did Man
yeah.
on Fire.
Okay.
He did Deja Vu.
Oh yeah. I forgot about that one.
And I think The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3 is Tony Scott as well.
That makes sense.
I may even be missing one in there. But yeah, so he was very, very well versed with Ridley Scott's brother.
Okay.
And I kind of feel like there might be one other than American Gangster, but that's their big one. And American Gangster is awesome.
It is a great movie.
Yeah, so he had worked with them there. So he was like, okay, well, we want a big star for this. So they talked to Denzel.
Yeah.
And I think it was off to the races once Denzel was in. You know, they really dug into this a lot.
Yeah. His character definitely not choose the scenery because that sounds like a bad thing, but every scene he's in, he commands the attention. He takes over any scene he's in. And that's not negative to any other actors that he's working with. It's just he's magnetic as the character. Like you kind of want to root for him, and then you kind of want to see him fail terribly at a certain point. Yeah, but that's his performance. It's great. I don't know if he'll get like a best actor. I've seen some buzz about that, maybe the supporting actor buzz, but I mean it's that level of good, I think.
Does Denzel have an Oscar?
Yeah, he's got
nominations.
What did he win for? He won for Training Day.
Oh yeah.
I think it's one for.
You can see shades of Training Day in his performance too.
Yeah. Julius Caesar ain't got nothing on me.
Yeah, so after that Denzel. We have Pedro Pascal.
Yep. One of my favorite actors.
General Acacius. He's great.
Mm-hmm.
That's a cool character.
I wanted more of him.
I wanted more of him too. That's what I was about to say. Connie Nielsen as Lucilla. Connie Nielsen is great in this. She got far more screen time and story than I ever expected her to.
Mm-hmm.
And she came out and said that she wouldn't have done it if her character was downplayed.
Fair.
If it was just a glorified cameo.
Like
Joseph Quinn.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, you said a glorified cameo, and there's a certain actor from the first movie they bring back. He was a senator in the first movie, and he literally has like 3.5 seconds of screen time.
Yeah, I don't even know. I think he talks, but like it's like 4 lines or something.
Yeah, and then someone stabs him.
He gets his neck
Spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers. There's gonna be spoilers sprinkled in here. So go see this movie if you haven't.
Go see this movie, yes.
And you already know that Derek Jacobi dies.
I apologize.
Nobody knows who that is, anyways.
That's true.
I mean, film people know. He was in Underworld, wasn't he?
It's true.
Yeah. All right, then we got Joseph Quinn as Emperor Gaeta and Fred Hetchinger. I think you say his name is Emperor Caracalla. Might have said some of that wrong.
It sounds right.
But those are the 2 emperors. So let's talk the acting now that
Hmm.
we've gotten the cast out of the way. Far and away, in my opinion, Denzel steals the show.
Yeah, I can't argue with that at all. It's, as I said, magnetic. He's great. And then, like, I enjoy Joseph Quinn quite a bit too. I almost felt like having two emperors kind of undercut him a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, took the attention away from him. I kind of wanted to see more of him being, kind of crazy, like emperor, like Nero kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting is that's kind of the point, right?
Yeah,
It comes across in that because that's the story is that there's two emperors. Do they really? Can there be two emperors?
I did a little bit of background research, and I think there was these two guys might have been emperors in the real world together, but they weren't brothers. They were like, well, they were brothers, but they weren't twins or something like that. So they made the twin thing for the movie, but that's fine. Ridley Scott. This isn't like a historically accurate movie. He did a movie to entertain people, which I have
Are
no
you not
issues with.
entertained?
Yes, exactly. Which I don't. Yeah, I don't mind. A lot of people kind of said like this wasn't historically accurate. Like the first one wasn't historically accurate. Just
No, they're not meant to be historically accurate. I
no,
don't care if I don't. I really don't care if they are.
no. You gotta make an entertaining movie to get people's butts in the seats is what you got to do. I don't mind the what's the word? Taking liberties. That's what it was.
That is it. Yes.
Sorry.
So while I think that's from a story standpoint, it makes sense. I think that I probably could have gone for more Joseph Quinn too.
Right. Just kind of cut the brother out.
Yeah, like if he's gonna kill one of them,
Yeah.
kill the other one.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that scene where Denzel Washington has Joseph Quinn's head, that scene is awesome.
It
It's
is
hilarious. It's weird.
very weird.
There's just so many things about it. Like it's strangely funny too.
Mhm.
Like him just walking around with this head that doesn't actually look that much like Joseph Quinn, if we're
I,
being
I
honest.
I say no.
Like you can tell it is, but
No.
but that scene is awesome. I think that I could watch a director's cut of this movie where we get more Pedro Pascal,
Mhm.
more Joseph Quinn, backstory a little bit to them,
Mhm.
you know? It
Yeah.
seems like there's more story to tell in a lot of these instances. They don't explain how two emperors came to be
Right.
whatsoever. They don't like why are they emperors instead of Lucius? They don't really explain that, right?
No, they don't at all. When we get to the complaints, I was going to bring that up. But yeah, there's no really. They don't say where they came from, what their parentage is, why they have a claim to the throne, what they did to become emperors. They just kind of show up as like preening kind of evil little rich boys is the way to put it, I think.
Yeah. So and they're not in the first movie.
No.
So I'd have to imagine that there's certain pieces here that this is where the story goes, that they explain some of that. I think they explain where Macrinus came from, Denzel Washington's character, because they had scenes where he's asking him who he is
Mm-hmm.
and where he's from, and like it's almost like they're alluding to Macrinus being somebody or connected somehow, but they never
Right.
say how. So it's alluding to it, but I have to imagine that that's where it goes in the future, right?
I think so. Yeah. There's a scene where like him, Macrinus, and the lead gladiator named Lucius are like talking in his cell, and Lucius asks him where he came from. He goes, "I'll never tell you." He just
Yeah,
it's kind
that's
of like yeah,
yeah, that's what I was talking about, and so I think that's where they tell the next story.
it would make sense.
Who do you want? Who do you want as a villain for the next one?
As a villain for the next one?
Yeah,
Ooh. Well, you've implied that you think it's gonna be Macrinus' story, right?
I think it might be. Yeah,
So he was a slave at the time of the emperor from the first movie who gets suffocated, and then you need to have his story after that point. You think, or because I'm just trying to think of like what
so
you could
when I
do.
say when I say that I'm thinking it's connected to his character,
Right. Okay.
not a prequel where it tells
Ooh.
Denzel Washington's character. That's
Okay.
not what I mean. Although
That's
that
where I was
could be
going.
a damn good story.
That's where I was
You know,
going. Okay.
if you're franchising this stuff, you know, tell that story, give Denzel more stuff. But maybe the next one is Lucius as emperor,
Hmm.
and he's trying to protect the kingdom from maybe Denzel Washington's character's son coming to invade or something.
I like that. I like that. Or you can even have
Maybe
some.
this time,
Hmm.
Gladiator 3, maybe this time the person that rises up is the enemy. The person, it's showing Lucius as the emperor against a gladiator.
Yeah,
You
that'd be
know?
cool. That'd be cool.
Invert the story for the third one.
And the first thought that came to my mind would be like Michael B. Jordan, someone like
That's
that.
the
But
first person that came to my mind, too.
yeah,
It almost seems like too easy.
it seems like a perfect choice. But
It does. It seems like the perfect choice. But it also it's like such easy casting. It's like
yeah,
but like, hey, for
it
what it's
works.
worth, Pedro Pascal's easy casting too. You know,
Yeah,
you just know this person's gonna kill it when you put
yeah,
him in the part. I'd say that's where you take it. You know.
I like it. I like the idea. Gladiator 3, Romeo Drift.
All right. So next topic,
Yeah.
the action.
Hmm.
What do you think of the action?
I watched the first one the night before I saw this one, and the fight between uh Russell Crowe's character Maximus and the guy called the Gull or whatever he was, and he had that faceplate that pulled down. And there was another face, like the silver helmet with the faceplate that pulled down. He was a bigger guy with the axes,
Yep.
and the tigers were attacking at the same time. I thought that was such an amazing like fight scene. I was looking for something to top that in this movie. I don't think anything quite reaches that level. It's not to say the action's not good, but I don't think there's a standout fight like that one in this. But I liked basically everything I saw action wise. Like I said, I just don't think there's a fight that stand out to me. But what do you think?
I really like the action. I'd say if there's something like that stands out, it is probably the naval scene.
No, okay, yeah.
That's sort of like the big action scene for me.
You
I
mean
don't
like
think
good?
I don't think one on one there's anything that quite tops it. The rhino scene is very good.
Mm-hmm.
That's almost like a rival to like the tiger scene from the first one. Is
Right,
good. It is a good when he first gets on the scene and he does the double swords on the guy. That's
right.
pretty cool.
That's a good fight. You actually. I don't think it's the same level again, but I think it's a good fight. He was like some champion, right? Some undefeated guy. I can't remember who that character's name was.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good scene. And as you said, the Rhino fight's great. I would compare the Rhino fight to the Chariot fight from the first movie. I think that's
Yeah.
kind of the same beats as
You've
the
watched it more recently than
more
I have.
recently. I have, yeah. But like the first fight in the Coliseum where he tries to get like the other gladiators to work together to defeat what they throw at him. Same kind of story beats as the Rhino fight.
Yep, those are all very good.
And when you say the naval battle, you mean the one in the Coliseum, right? You don't mean like the opening scene where they're attacking his new home.
Yeah, I mean the Coliseum naval
Right.
battle.
Yep. Yep. That is the standout fight, just because it's such a cool thing to see.
Yeah, and they wanted to do that scene in the first movie, but he didn't have the budget to do it, and it's a very cool scene. I want more naval battles in my movies
Fair.
nowadays. We don't get enough of those.
Well, I'd say so. I'd agree. Is what I meant to say there. Yeah.
Yeah. So the action is very good. It's very fun.
Hmm.
I think the only thing that detracts away from any of the action is my next topic, and that's the special effects.
Right.
So I was trying not to be negative about it the whole time I was watching it. I was like, all right, well, there's CGI right there. Oh, there's CGI. And, like, I don't like to be, like, a CGI naysayer. Because, like, my whole thing with it is, like, I don't mind it if it's not distracting, you know? But I'll be damned if that baboon was not distracting. Like,
I was going to say it. If you didn't say it, I was going to say those baboons did not look great.
No, they didn't. I think that they could have been worse, but you cannot put a CGI baboon and a real person hand to hand wrestling and expect it to look great. They did. I will say they did the best they could do
Mhm.
given that limitation, but just don't write the scene like that, you know?
Right. And like
Make a different animal. I don't know.
that's the thing too. It was a choice to put baboons in there. You could have put anything in there. You could have had them fight another group of not barbarians, gladiators.
Right.
Is like the first like fight after you get captured. That would be understandable. Maybe they didn't want to have so many like gladiator versus gladiator fights. Maybe they wanted to do the spectacle. But
Hmm.
if you're gonna do the baboons, you gotta. I don't know, you're right. You can't have him like wrestling around with it around his neck
I
because it
think
just
the
doesn't look
solution
right.
is just don't do baboons.
I think it's probably the best idea.
Yeah, I think that's the only solution.
And there's a big story beat in there too, because like his chieftain from his city gets captured with him, and I'm like, oh, this guy's gonna be a big character, and then he just gets babooned, and
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, well, I guess not.
Yeah. That guy was not a big character.
No,
But yeah, I mean, we've seen worse CGI this year alone. I still think this CGI is better than Rook in Alien Romulus.
right.
So there's that. It's not as egregious as that, but like it is very distracting. So
Right.
I don't know.
And like outside of the baboons, the rhino when he first comes in the arena, I thought was overly shiny, but
Mm.
they cleaned that up as like the fight went on. Like the rhino looked better and better. I don't know. That must have been a choice that they wanted to have all the glisten off of it when it came in, but I thought the rhino looked all right. The sharks looked fine. You know,
The sharks for me, I would have if I was directing the movie.
I know it's coming.
Um, I would have had the fins be practical.
Yeah, that's a good
And
idea.
those overhead shots and the underwater shots and all that, fine. CGI sharks. We see it all the time. You know, we
We
can deal
do.
with it. But I didn't think there was much of a reason to have the fins being not practical because we know how good it can look.
Hmm.
I mean, everybody's seen Jaws,
Right.
so just have the fins be practical.
Yeah.
But other than that, I didn't mind a lot that happened there because I mean, at this stage, we see CGI sharks all the time, so it's like whatever.
And outside the animals, the rest of the movie looked great. Like the CGI on like
Yeah.
the Coliseum looks fantastic, and like the boats, as we said, it all looks really good. There's even CGI fire when the boats are catch on fire, and that doesn't look. Sometimes CGI fire can look wonky as all hell, but it didn't look bad in
Yeah.
this movie.
No, it didn't. There was some CGI blood that I was like,
I mean,
but
that's always going to happen, sadly.
that is like standard these days. Why doesn't anybody want to use practical blood
They use
anymore?
real blood. You can't fake good blood.
Yeah, just the blood pouches that explode. Like
Yeah,
I love those things, man.
wait, squibs, I think they're called.
Yeah, exactly. What happened to the good old days of squibs?
What happened to the squibs?
But yeah, the sets were great.
Oh yeah,
Interesting thing about those sets is that they're actually the sets from Kingdom of Heaven,
oh,
directed by Ridley Scott. And at the end of that production, he sold those sets to the Moroccan government because it was going to be expensive to dismantle them. So he's like, "Hey, you guys want the sets?" And the government was like, "Yeah, we'll take them." And then when he was making this, he's like, "Hey, Moroccan government, can I pay you to
use them again.
use those again?" And they were like, "Yeah, go ahead," because it was going to be cheaper to pay them to use them
Yeah,
than it was to build them again.
look at him playing like 3D chess out there.
Yeah, right. That's crazy. It's crazy that it was the Kingdom of Heaven sets too, and not Gladiator One sets. Who
Yeah,
knows what they did with those? But
burnt.
yeah, and I wonder if like which sets they were that they used, because it wouldn't be the Colosseum, right? There was no Colosseum in Kingdom of Heaven. I don't think. Like maybe it'd be a lot of those like the fight at the beginning, maybe.
Right. I would assume that's probably where a lot of it was.
Yeah, or some of those interior shots. Maybe the shot of Lucilla's chambers or
Hmm.
whatever. A lot of those interior shots that they use were probably from there too.
Right. But did you like her secret door, her little secret passage with the push button secret passage?
Yeah, that
I
was
love a
good.
good secret passage in a movie. As
Me
soon as I
too.
saw that, I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah, you're like, I wonder who else knows about this.
Everyone. It's a
Right.
giant button.
I know. Probably accidentally pushing that all the time. Like, oh my god, what did
I would too. I absolutely would.
I do? What'd you think about the music?
Oh, music's great as always. That's a kind of a mainstay of like Ridley Scott films is that he knows when to put music in and like how to use beats to his advantage for like story beats and like this is important. Here's a swell. He's always been really good with in his movies, and I thought this absolutely was fantastic in that aspect.
Yeah, the music was good. Hans Zimmer did the music in the first movie.
Hmm.
Fantastic.
Oh yeah, hard to top Hans, but I thought it was very good.
Yeah, I mean it's damn near impossible. He's one of the best out there. But yeah, the soundtrack from the first movie is great. I bought the soundtrack to the first movie back in the year 2000 on CD.
Attaboy.
I liked it so much.
Still got that?
I don't know. I don't. Yeah, I don't know if I do. I didn't see it in all my stuff, but I still have a bunch of CDs in like a box over here. It's possible that it's with my mom's stuff because she really liked that album, and I think that maybe she still has it. Who knows? One of my final topics here is closing thoughts on the movie. So I got some things that are like this, that are talked about from the press tour and whatnot. So if you got any final thoughts, and we can get your final rating on the movie in a moment.
Right.
So the first thing I wanted to say is that the casting of Matt Lucas as the Master of Ceremonies is absolutely hilarious casting. Do you know who Matt Lucas is?
I do not.
He's the bald guy from the Great British Bake Off.
You're kidding me.
He was the Master of Ceremonies that's like announcing when people are coming in and whatnot.
I didn't know who that person was at all, so that makes sense.
I looked at Sarah because we watch a lot of that show,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, "Is that Matt Lucas right there?" She's like, "It is." I was like, "That's the most bonkers casting."
I wonder
For
why.
anybody that knows who he is, it's crazy casting.
I wonder why they would do that.
I don't know. He's a comedian in real life. So maybe because it's like similar to being like a host. He's like a comedian and he does a little bit of acting, and he was the host of this show and probably other shows, but
I mean, it does make sense when you really think about it. Like a host knows how to like present,
yeah. And I guess that's like maybe they were like, hey, if way back in the day, this is what Matt Lucas would have been doing. Is
It would have
like
been
this instead.
Yeah. There would be no
Maybe
Bruce
that's
Buffer.
Right. Other thing that came up this weekend actually is that Pedro Pascal shared on social media a couple posts with May Kalamaui, who is the woman that starred opposite Oscar Isaac in Moon Knight.
Oh, okay.
She was supposed to be in this movie.
Really?
She had a part, and she was in the photos. A lot of people thought she just never ended up being cast in the movie, but when Pedro Pascal shared these photos, she was in them. And they're like, wait a second, she filmed stuff? And then it came out that all of her scenes were actually cut, and it was actually a semi-prominent role. So she's actually Palestinian, so a lot of people think that because of the whole Israel-Palestinian conflict going on right now, that she got removed from the movie because of that. And if that's true, I think that sucks.
That does suck. I really hope that's not true. Like the movie was 2.5 hours as it was. I'd hope if she did get her role cut, that'd be the reason. Hopefully it's not that, but who knows?
Hopefully. Yeah. So once again, if there is a director's cut of this movie, I'd love to see that, and maybe that includes more from her as well, or anything from her.
Really. You think it'd have to?
Yeah. One of the other things I noticed is that Denzel Washington has been having an absolute ball doing press for this movie. Like, he's just spitting so much knowledge to everybody about acting and just having a great time. I've seen it like nonstop on social media.
That's great. I'm glad. He said something about he's thinking about retiring at some point. He's not got too many movies left in him, he said.
Yeah, I think he like released a list of like these are the movies that I think are going to be like my final like 5 movies or whatever.
Went Tarantino on us.
Yeah, except like he's doing a lot more. he lists it was not a small list.
It's a decent list. Okay.
There were 2 more Equalizer movies on there. He was like, everybody loves those Equalizer movies. It's like, yeah, we do.
We do.
Have you seen all of those?
No, I'm one behind now.
The third one is my favorite one.
It's the most recent one, right?
Yes. Yeah. So you should watch that.
Gotta catch
it is absolutely brilliant.
All right.
Brilliant action. That's like his John Wick.
Yeah, completely agree with that.
So another thing that came up with Denzel is that he was quoted as saying, "I actually kissed a man in the film, but they took it out. They cut it. I think they got chicken. I kissed a guy full on the lips, and I guess they weren't ready for that yet. I killed him about 5 minutes later."
Oh. Well, no, that doesn't narrow it down, does it? It could have been either of the emperors, I guess. I mean, spoilers, sorry.
It could have been, but it also could have been like maybe that guy that he's betting with the whole time, because there was a scene where I'm like, he looks like he's about to kiss this guy, you know?
Yeah.
And then it's a scene where he's like telling him like he owns his house now.
That's a great scene.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic scene.
Yeah. That scene's a fantastic scene. There's so many scenes where the one where he's like, oh, I guess he's known for liking men as well as women. And then Denzel's like, well, someday
me too.
So am I.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's having so much fun in the movie and on press and everything. Like I would love to see more scenes with him. So, I guess that's my thing with it is it's if they release a director's cut where they're like, all right, well, for anybody that wanted it, here's a 4-hour version of this. Like, yeah, give us that. I'll take it.
Yeah, perfect. I agree with that. And he definitely, you. Oh, here you go. She's got to wash the dog, and she's hiding underneath me because she doesn't want to get a bath.
So what are your final thoughts on the movie? What did you think of it?
Overall, I thought it was a great time. I was not disappointed with it. I enjoyed myself. I look forward to watching it more. I do think it's a step down from the original, but that's just because the original's so iconic, I guess, at this point is the best word for it. I had a good time with it. I do have an issue with how the first movie ended, and then they're just like, oh, Lucius ran away. And it's like, what? How did we go from like the Commodus falling to Lucius has to run away? And so that's my main complaint is that part felt rushed and unexplained. But other than that,
they just kind of brush right over it, like, no, don't ask any questions.
He ran away. He's not in Rome anymore. Yeah. He's the rightful heir, but he just ran off to Africa. It's fine.
Yeah, they really just are like, don't ask any questions when it comes to that.
Yeah. So that's my main complaint. We're doing out of 10, so our kind of thing.
Sure.
I'd say it's an 8, easy 8, maybe 8.5. I got to watch it again, but I'd say it's an easy 8. And that's considering the Gladiator one's a 10 out of 10. So a step down, but good time. Better than I thought it'd be honest with you. Better than I ever really kind of gave it credit for. I was expecting this to be dumb. If I'm gonna be honest with you.
Right.
Like it is dumb fun to an extent, but it's not like painfully stupid, mind-numbingly dumb.
Right. It's not like it's smarter than Red One probably is, right?
Yeah, I saw Red One.
You saw it?
I did.
How's that?
That's the most 5 out of 10 movie you ever see, my friend.
Nice. That's about what I expect.
Yeah.
Right in the middle.
Yeah. Doesn't do anything special. Does enough.
So what did Holly think?
Holly absolutely loved the first Gladiator movie. She said it was one of the best movies she's ever seen. And she liked this one not as much, but she was a big fan of it. She loved Denzel.
And you primed her, right?
I primed
her with
yeah.
I was like, just tell her it's not as good as the first one.
I did.
Tell her to lower those expectations a little bit.
I did. And at the movie, she said, your friend is right. I'm like, I know he's right. He's usually right.
I was like, do not walk in expecting a masterpiece.
No. Expect a good movie. Yeah.
That's my thoughts too, pretty much. Is the first one's a 10 out of 10. I'd probably give this one an 8. There were times when I even thought about giving it a 7.5, but I would give it an 8. Somewhere in that 7.5 to 8.5 range, depending on how I feel that day. At the moment, I'll give it an 8. Yeah. But it is not as good as the first one. It is still one of the best action movies of this year.
Oh, without question, sure. Yeah.
It might do well at the Oscars. I have no idea because honestly, this doesn't seem like it's been that great of a year for movies in general.
Right.
You know,
Not yet. There's always a couple at the end of the year that are like, oh, this is the best thing ever, and those usually turn out to be pretty solid. Like Nosferatu's coming. I bet you that's going to be a big one.
yeah, I really hope that just, wouldn't it be something if that just sweeps the Oscars? That's this year's Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Right. Could be.
Yeah,
We'll see.
could be. Who knows?
I would say
All right.
also, one more thing with the sharks is I don't know if you needed to use sharks. Like, sharks are notoriously such a hard animal to, like, capture and, like, stuff. And like, it's like a jump the shark moment, not to, be too obvious with it. But just use crocodiles, man. Crocodiles existed. They were in Africa. They had access to them.
Could have. I've seen critics bring up a lot with the sharks online. I don't mind the sharks being there at all.
Yeah,
I
okay.
think they're fun in the scene that they're in. I did have my complaints about the fins, but I think overall, like, I do not care whatsoever about the historical accuracy of there being sharks there. And Ridley Scott was actually asked about that in the interview. The interviewer was like, "Did you read that?"
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, he was like, what do you think about that? What's so, I think, stupid about it is it's them referencing something on social media,
Hmm.
and they were like, "Oh, a historian on social media," and it's like, I have zero confidence you actually did your due diligence in verifying this person as a historian. Like, I have serious doubts about this person's credentials. I haven't looked into it either. But like that, and that's my point. Nobody ever looks into this
Right.
stuff. So
They
got
just
doubts about the
repeat it.
credentials here. But the opinion of one out of the hundreds of historians out there who was vocal on social media said that it's historically inaccurate that sharks would have been there. And Ridley Scott was like, nonsense. That's nonsense.
Were you?
He was like it would be so easy to catch a shark. People, they had nets back then, they probably accidentally caught sharks all the time.
All the
They
time.
transport it from the ocean to here. Simple. I was like, you know what? Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
If you can and I think this might even be what he said too. He's like, if they can build the Colosseum, they can figure out how to get a shark in it.
Did he say that? I didn't know this far into it. I just thought it was the whole "Were you there? No, shut up" comment. I didn't know he went
No,
this far into it.
he had thought about it.
Okay.
I think he did say something along those lines. Like, if they have the technological prowess to build a Colosseum like that, then they can figure out how to put a shark in it.
Okay.
And in all honesty, it doesn't sound that complicated because, I mean, yeah, that is the thing, right? They had nets, they had ships.
Let's not get into shark habitat keeping and all that. It's a slippery slope, my friend.
All right. Well, I don't think I don't think it's that far out of the realm of possibility. But at the same time, I also don't care if it is.
That's the thing. That is the thing.
Like, screw it. Put a shark in it. Put more sharks in it. What are we going to put in the next one? Giant spiders. Let's do that.
A minotaur.
Oh, my God. I would love if they put a minotaur in it. Wouldn't that be awesome?
That'd be fun.
Like, they start delving right into, like, the Odyssey style stuff right in the third one.
Why not?
Half
We're
man,
not-
half horse coming in, too. What
Yeah.
are those called?
Center.
A centaur, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right, so that's all I got. Anything else you want to add for Gladiator 2?
Nope. We mentioned Joseph Quinn. I want to bring him up. I want to bring up that I thought the sharks were unnecessary, but fine with it. Pedro Pascal. I wanted more of him. Wanted more of Joseph Quinn, as I said.
Mm-hmm.
I think we hit all the talking points I wanted to hit.
Yeah. I wouldn't have killed Connie Nielsen's character
No.
if doing this.
No, they wanted to give you more of the hate Denzel vibe, but at that point, he already done such a good job of being a character.
He does
Yeah.
kind of really, really hate his character, too, doesn't
Yeah.
he? And
Yeah.
it's like, why do you hate this guy so much? Like, yeah, he's a little slimy, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, that seemed a little bit forced.
Yeah,
But,
I agree.
It is what it is. It's a choice. It's his movie, I guess.
Definitely his movie, yes.
Yeah. All right. So next up is news. I only got one item for this week because it's a slow week, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a fun one. Did you see that Nosferatu has launched their popcorn buckets for
Yes.
Regal?
From you.
It is a sarcophagus popcorn bucket.
That's pretty sweet. That's
They
exciting.
are pretty awesome. And that may be decided that I'm going to see this at Regal instead of AMC.
I like it. That's awesome.
It's the year of the popcorn buckets, man.
It really is. We had the Alien ones, we had the Deadpool ones, we had the Dune ones.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of good ones out there. Beetlejuice for another delayed sequel.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, not this was more. This was less delayed than Beetlejuice, but
Yeah. Also, a couple ridiculous sequel ideas out there for that one in the meantime, but we don't need to get into all that.
right.
But anyways, we do get werewolves in what, a month?
Yeah. I'm getting oddly
Is
excited
it a
about that
month?
movie. I think it
Or
is.
is that might be sooner than a month.
You can Google it.
I am Googling it. December 6th.
Oh wow.
That's coming quick. We could watch that on our Philly trip.
We can watch that on our Philly trip. Ooh. That's
Yeah.
a spicy meatball. I like that idea.
Yeah. Well, hey, I know we had planned on doing the physical media showcase, but I know that you have to go. You have a place to be in at 7:00 now, so you want to wrap up here?
No, we can do it real quick if we just got a few minutes of it.
Okay, yeah,
Yep.
go ahead. Physical media showcase. Take it away.
Yes,
Dan.
sir. All right, so for Physical Media Showcase, I just wanted to show you my most recent addition to my 4K Blu-ray collection, and that is Sleepy Hollow.
Oh, you got the Steelbook?
Yes, sir.
That is exciting.
Yeah,
That's
I love this
nice.
movie. So that is the light behind me is freaking out too. I don't know if you see that, but that's okay.
Now, from my angle, you're blotching in and out, anyways.
Okay. You know me, always be blotching.
Yeah. All right. So the one I wanted to talk about is that I got and this isn't really new, but it has been sitting on my shelf untouched for probably a year now, and I don't even know if I told you about this, but I haven't done a video on it or anything. But I got the 4K of The Lighthouse.
Oh, nice.
So it's the special collector's edition from A24. It came with like this little postcard for this movie, Love Lies Bleeding.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So a
Kristen
little
Stewart
postcard
one.
for that movie. That is how old this 4K is. It came with this little
Envelope.
like nice fancy envelope that has like the packing list in it, but this is a damn nice envelope just for a packing list.
Nice envelope.
And then you got this.
Oh, wow. I still haven't seen that movie. That's very cool.
And
Ooh,
it is the
I heard the
movie is
noise.
inside a book.
That's cool.
Yeah, so there's this whole booklet in here with drawings and all this cool stuff. Stuff like this.
Oh, look at that. Very
Yeah,
cool.
so this is pretty cool, and it's the 4K edition, so it's nice. And I actually haven't watched it yet. Maybe I'll watch this tonight.
There you
I'll
go.
let you know next week. But yeah, super cool. I love these A24 collector's editions. I want to get the what's that movie? Midsummer one. And if they do one for Talk to Me,
Oh,
that
they got
doesn't
it.
have the acrylic hand with it. I just don't want. I don't know why, but I don't want the acrylic hand. You know what it is? The
Ouija
acrylic
board?
hand comes with a marker instead of having the writing on it already, and I'm not going to use that.
No.
Because I'm not gonna. What am I gonna do? I'm not gonna sit there and write a bunch of like names on it myself. I'm probably not gonna have my friends do it. It's a collector's item. So, but this thing also costs like $150. So I'm like, I don't know. I'm not trying to do that. Just give me a nice book edition like this
Right.
one.
I completely agree. I've seen the hand edition, and I like that movie. I have it on 4K over there, but I would do a special edition of that too. But the hand kind of has like an Ouija board feeling to it. Like I don't mess with Ouija boards. I don't want to have that hand in my house either.
Yeah.
I saw the movie. I don't need that.
Yeah, I love that movie though.
It's
so
really good.
I'll definitely get that one if they release like a really nice edition of it. I missed the Steelbook. I would have got that.
Mhm.
But anyways, that's all I got. Anything else you wanted to cover today, Dan?
No, sir. That'd be it for me.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. It's been a pleasure to speak with you, Dan. So thank you as
You too.
well. And please like, follow, comment. Let me know what you think. Next week, Dan and I are going to be getting back together to do the top 25 fan movies of the last 25 years. So tune back for that one.
Yeah.
And we're going to have our own list that we're going to be presenting along with that list from
And
Rotten
we're gonna go in
Tomatoes.
blind to that too, so that'd be fun.
Yep, we're both going in blind, so you get to see our full honest reactions right there. So yeah, tune in then. In the meantime, you can catch me on Threads or Instagram at Bark Night Podcast. Thank you.
See y'all later.